some thou shalt not in grace. Number one, thou shalt not be ignorant of your righteousness in Christ. Romans chapter 10, verse 1 to 3. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. Oh, so they are not saved. They might be saved. Now, but let's look at why he's saying they might be saved. Because these people, they are the one God calls his own. They had the law of Moses. In fact, they were the people that were going to church. They were the temple and the whatever. All right? But Paul is saying that they should be saved. So with all these that they have all the priests, the high priest, they have the tabernacle, they have everything. But they are not saved. That's what Paul is saying. My prayer is that they should be saved. Now, for I bear them record that they have a zeal of God. You know, NLT we say that they have enthusiasm, kind of. All right. So I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves to the righteousness of God. Say, I know they have enthusiasm. I know they have zeal. It is misdirected zeal. They had the misdirected zeal. They were serving God. They were doing all the sacrifices. They were, all the festivals, everything. They were just God's people. He gave them the law through Moses and the rest of it. But all these zeals, they were misdirected zeal. So, and why was that? It's because they are ignorant of God's righteousness. Somebody say, I will not be ignorant of God's righteousness. So now, what is God's righteousness? Okay, let me make it easy for us. Who is God's righteousness? I am God's righteousness. We are the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. So who is God's righteousness? You still don't believe it? Say it one more time. I am the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. So thou shalt not, number one, thou shalt not be ignorant of your righteousness in Christ. Okay? Okay, now let's still have this as 1A. 1A. Do not establish your own righteousness. Thou shalt not establish thine own righteousness. Do not establish your own righteousness. He said, for they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness. How do you establish your own righteousness? So they want to get righteousness by killing cows, all the sacrifices. That is how they get righteousness. But God is saying, no, that's not the way. That one you will come year in and year out. Every year you come and sacrifice. I don't want that one. I have brought righteousness to you through the death of my son. So now take this righteousness. They said no. They go about still establishing their righteousness. There is a way we used to do it. People have to come here. We have to train goat and train calves and train all these things. Pigeon, depending on the kind of sin they sin. We have to train all these things and bring them to church so that we can sell them. And people must come and confess their sin and buy goat and the rest. And the priest will have to take their share from the fatting, whatever. The Old Testament, the Bible says that the fats belong to the Lord. So if the fat belongs to him, the bone and the meat and the other part belongs to the priest. So they want to keep that same righteousness. So they went about still establishing their own righteousness. Thou shalt not establish thine own righteousness. Number 2, do not go back to the faulty covenant. Thou shalt not go back to the faulty covenant.